Hey everyone. Well, we're going to talk about our financial planning principles that we use here at Brindle and Bay. It's a document that we hand to people that explains what we believe about financial planning, and I think you may benefit if you were to adapt these same financial planning principles for yourself. So have a listen.
This is the Money Master Podcast from Brindle and Bay Wealth Management with Tori Tenhagen, Connie Davis, and certified financial planner Nick Davis.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Money Master Podcast. Connie here, along with Nick and Tori. Happy to have you with us. And, I would like to encourage you, if you've been enjoying our podcast, to go and leave us a review. It can be as simple as one of our last reviewers who left a 5-star review, and she said, "Enjoyed your episode on retirement mistakes. Great info. We will continue to listen. Thank you." And, it's great for people to be able to read that, see that out there, and then more people want to listen to our podcast. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we appreciate 5-star reviews. It helps the show. We've typically did this podcast over the years, which used to be a radio show here in Dallas. And we did it for our clients to just connect with them more. And it'd be nice to actually spread out and actually have a little bit of organic growth. And I think that we're going to be more intentional about that. So those reviews would definitely help us. So
well, and it helps us create content that we know y'all are enjoying. That's helpful to you, knowing that that podcast helped her. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very good. All right, so we're going to talk about a document that we have here in the office that we give to people, even our online clients who we never meet in person, who are kind of all over the United States. And it really makes sure you're on the same page with your financial planner, right? And I think it's important to talk about philosophy. We had another episode where we talked about investment philosophy or investment principles. So you can go back a couple of episodes and you can actually hear what those principles are if you'd like to have that. But then we also have this other one about our financial planning principles. And we're just got the document sitting in front of us. We're going to kind of tell you what those principles are and have a conversation around it.
Well, let's get started. So the first one, to be successful, you must have a plan.
Basic.
You right? So, I mean, just like, if you're going to go this weekend, we're going to go up to Hot Springs, Arkansas, right? So I don't know how to get there. So we have to use our GPS, right? We're going to put it in the map. We're going to choose one of the 3 routes and we're going to hit go, right? So you've got to have a plan.
You have to know where you want to go.
Yes.
If you don't know where you want to go, if you don't consciously say, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to do, you don't know when you arrive, right? Any plan will do. You don't go into the cockpit of an airplane and talk to the pilot and say, hey, how are we going to get to England on this plane? And he says, well,
I don't know.
Yeah, or where are we going? We know where we're going, right? So we have to kind of have this thing in front of us that says, even if it's as basic as I want to have a $75,000 inflation-adjusted lifestyle and I want to be able to spend more time with my family, and I want to, downsize my house approximately at this time. I want to be able to do, this, that. I want to be efficient with taxes. The point is identifying what those things are so that you know that they're happening. You can just say, hey, it's actually happening. That's the first thing on the list here.
Well, and to continue the GPS analogy, you know how I think it's Google now does the landmarks, past the Taco Bell or it tells you, and that's a check-in though of okay, did this year when we do reviews with our clients, okay, this is what you said you wanted to do this year. Did this happen?
Yeah.
That landmark check post of
yeah, that's very good.
Are these things happening?
Yep. Yeah. When we do that check-in, a lot of times we'll ask, what's missing? Is there anything missing? That question alone is super helpful because it's there's silence in the room and what is missing from here? Never been asked that question before. I thought we were just going to talk about the market. No, well, what's missing? Is everything going well? Are you happy?
How does it feel? Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel like you're missing anything from your plan that would help it to be more meaningful? So anyway, that's the first one on the list. The second one is we are planning focused. I think this is a nice way to distinguish what's important. We are planning focused as opposed to being stock market focused or talking about the market focused or
selling you a product
focused. And, you may not realize that that's kind of a big deal, but, it's like for years and years and years and years to be in financial planning, all you were as an advisor who was talking about the market, and nobody kind of realized that the way investing is done is greatly commoditized. It really, the value really is in the financial planning. And I think there has to be a focus around when am I going to take Social Security? Should I do Roth conversions? Should I do charitable giving? Did I report my basis correctly in my 1040?
How are my withdrawals going? Am I pulling too high? Do I need to protect the first year? I mean, all that stuff that we do that someone wouldn't know to look for necessarily. Yeah,
exactly. So we are planning focused, and I think it's very important that you would be planning focused as well. And I know, for my own self, if I weren't in the picture and I was just a consumer, I'd want to know that I was being meaningful and being purposeful about my plan and doing everything I could to be wise, and not just saying, well, I've got this paycheck and I want to know what my ROI was, like my return on investment, right? So we are planning focused. Third one.
Yeah, the third one, financial planning is not precise. It is adaptive. It is ever changing. Things happen. And talking about the map or the GPS, right? I thought about this when we were putting together the notes, but we all have our route that we go every day out of our neighborhood to the grocery store or wherever, right? We follow that same route all the time, except for, we know it's school zone time. Oops, I'm going to go out the other direction, right? So we adapt to the situations that arise, which we have to do the same when it comes to our financial plan.
That's a big thing that we ask people when they come in to meet with us is, are you going to come in and review this with us? Because we don't want to build you a one-time plan, because it needs to be checked in on. Yeah. It's not a one and done situation.
Right. You have to move the goalpost, because you're going to put assumptions in there, and then the future is going to become now. And some of those assumptions are going to come to pass, and many of them are not going to come to pass. You're not going to get the return you thought you were going to get. Inflation's not going to be what you thought it was going to be.
We put an inheritance in there that may or may not happen.
A surprise inheritance.
Yeah, like any of those things. If that's what's helping you sleep at night because your plan's successful on that,
right?
It may not be, because you haven't checked in to see that that's happening.
So as long as your plan is good for now, that's what matters. And then, in the future, you ask the same question: is my plan good for now? Yeah. And when you start a relationship with a financial planner, a lot of times that question happens a lot more frequently. It might be every 3 months or every 6 months. Oh my gosh, am I okay now? Am I okay now? Am I okay now? And then it kind of levels out to where it's like, all right, I know I'm okay. I know I'm okay for longer periods of time, right? And
or when you first retire, there's a lot of that questioning at the beginning of, especially how do we ease back into this new phase?
Or God forbid you get some negative health report or something. So the point is, financial planning is about being okay now and knowing that you're taking the action that you need to take now. Talking about responsible relationships or emotion, and I'm not going to try to open this can of worms with Tori here, because she'll start talking about therapy sessions with her background.
Every part of this episode, I'm like, there's stuff I can say about mindset.
Yeah, but there is when you have relationships and you're wondering about your own conscious effort towards other people, a lot of times you have to ask yourself, what am I responsible for, and have I done everything that I'm responsible for in this relationship? You do that in your own personal life, and that's how you put things to rest, so that you're not going crazy thinking about the stuff, your interpersonal relationships. It's the same thing with your financial plan. It's, what am I responsible for? Should I have figured out my budget? Like, should I have checked in? Do I know that my plan is okay? Have I looked at what my distributions are going to be this year, or what they're going to be when I do retire in 3 years? As long as you've done those things, you can put it to rest for now, right? And then check in again later. So again, that's the principle on this paper. Financial planning is not precise, but it is adaptive.
The next principle would be, we control the things we can control.
That's a good one.
We don't get to control the market.
Yeah. That drives us crazy.
For us to do that.
Yeah, like we talked in another episode about the magic certainty button. Like, there's no magic certainty button that we can push. And it's irritating, because we want to have this black and white solution. And in fact, products are really sold on that very idea. Brochures make things look really good because it gives you this magic certainty. But we have to accept the fact that there's not a magic certainty button. So we have to stay flexible, adapt as we just talked about, and focus on the things we can control. One thing that we talk about a lot is you can't control how much money you're saving for the day that you stop working. Right. So, I actually just did a video on YouTube about how to know how many dollars you should be saving, and how large of a savings do you need to have before you stop working. Here's exactly, it's your responsibility to know how many dollars should you be saving in your 401k and with your match and other places to end up where you want to be. Now, you can control that, right? You can't control what inflation is really going to end up being. So these are the things that we can be responsible for. These are the things that we can control. And, I actually kind of feel like a quote coming on from that, the prayer. What is the
accept the things.
Accept the things I can. Oh, geez, here we are recording this.
The Serenity Prayer.
The Serenity Prayer. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Help me to accept things I can't change, and change the things I can, or something like that.
I know. Now in the moment, I can't think.
Everybody listening is going to say, "This is such an obvious prayer. You should know this." Yeah. Anyway, getting back to our final 3 points on the list here.
Yeah. So prepare for what can go wrong. Invest for what can go right.
That's good.
Prepare for what can go wrong, but invest for what can go right.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. It's easy to talk about the first part of that, which is preparing for what can go wrong, meaning I want to, have figured in my healthcare into my plan, like for about 30 years. I want to know what strategy I may use for extended healthcare issues should I need it. I want to make sure I have that emergency savings. So we're preparing for what can go wrong. That example we gave, it was either this episode or another episode about the plan we had just built for somebody where, they're retiring in 3 years. They're taking a lot of money percentage-wise out over the first 5 years. Well, we know what could go wrong is they could show up in 3 years and the market could be down that year and they're taking an unusually large percentage of their savings. So prepare for that. Have that money in a place where it's not very volatile at all, even though you're going to give up some returns for those 3 years waiting, for that to happen. So that's what's preparing for what can go wrong. Now, invest for what can go right. This is speaking to the person who wants to try to
time the market.
Yep.
Well, we talked about this before. We haven't, even during bad years, like last year, 2022, we didn't get a ton of panicked phone calls from clients. And that was huge because of this. We prepared them for your plan has all of this potential built in. So that when we tell you we've invested your money for the right, what could go right, you're okay. We've planned for this. And that's why we're able to say that, is because we've gone by this principle.
Especially staying in the market during bad times, just not, don't neglect the fact that you're going to be spending some money in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So meaning there's both pieces there. So when we build a financial plan, there are accounts dedicated to not touching for 15 years. That's planning for what can go right? But because each of us as individuals, we have to be able to stay committed to our plan. And this principle just speaks to people that are trying to time the market, and we believe in what can go right for the most part.
Historically, what goes right is time, giving stuff time.
Time
horizon of having an account that has its time.
Which brings us to the next point on our financial planning principles, which is good planning has a long time horizon. So it's, it is not, a lot of times people say, I've got this cash, I'm going to need it in a year. What can I invest it in? Well, you shouldn't, that's short-term money if you need it in a year, right? If you need it in 2 years, even 3 years. In fact, in 5 years, the S&P 500 has a 25% chance of not being positive, like a 5-year point-to-point, historically. So you really want to pay attention to time horizon. In fact, time horizon heals a lot of things. Right. So instead of trying to time the market, be aware on your risk timing, meaning when are you going to need to spend that money? Okay. And that's a huge piece to financial planning. We don't really, unless we look at that at least once a year and look at our budget in detail and know how much money we're going to potentially spend, we could find ourselves in a bad situation where all of a sudden we need a lot more money than we planned for, and maybe we're having a down year in the market. So we've got to, all of us listening, we've got to have money growing, outpacing inflation. We've got to have money that's, in utility purpose for us to actually use when we're retired.
But that's part of planning along the way. We do that initially, but we do that over that whole time horizon of checking in and seeing how things are going. A one-time invest this way, you're good forever. Right.
A financial plan is not a piece of paper.
Right.
It's a process that makes you know that you're okay right now. Am I okay right now? Is there anything I need to be doing? And am I missing anything? And it's a process connected to those questions. That's what a financial plan is. It's connecting to those things, knowing what your due north is, knowing that it's a process. If you want a piece of paper, that's you're going to be disappointed, right? I mean, yes, it does live on a piece of paper, but that's kind of gimmicky. So anyway, time horizon, checking in all the time, over time, that's really what people need.
And our last financial planning principle will be follow our own advice.
And this was the same in our investing principles, but we do the same we do for our clients.
We have an emergency cash stash. We have our IRAs personally in the same IRAs that we recommend, the same types of allocations, same styles. And of course, it's different for every person depending upon their own needs and risk tolerance. But follow your own advice. So that is the entirety of our financial planning principles sheet.
Yeah. So when we build a plan for someone, it's not just give us the information, we put it in a computer, here it is, you're done. Like, we work with the person, we collaborate, because it's more than just the numbers. And, you just said, don't open the can of worms. Tori's going to start talking about mindset and emotions. But it is that. It is, how do you feel about this? Does it feel good? Can you sleep at night with this plan in place? And so we build it with the person with all this in mind.
Thanks for listening in with us today. And I hope that you found the information useful. And if you did, please share the episode. And we would love if you leave us a 5-star review.
Nick Davis is an investment advisor representative of Brindle and Bay Financial Advisors, a registered investment advisor. This show is for informational purposes only. Any exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered financial advice or recommendation to buy or sell a financial vehicle. You should consult a qualified financial, tax, or legal professional before taking any action. This program is not endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. Insurance licensed in Texas, number 1188639. Brindle and Bay Wealth Management is affiliated with Brindle and Bay Financial Advisors.